Okay, so let's pick up our discussion here of decentralization. So, what is the correct degree of decentralization? It's hard really to say what the correct degree of decentralization is because it really depends. It depends on the skills of the managers. It depends on the type of business you're in. It depends on the size of business. Uh, so it's unclear exactly how centralized an organization should be, although there has been a trend recently over the last 20, 30 years to move to a more decentralized organization. But centralization can be also important as well because, for example, in production, if there are significant economies of scale, then which means, of course, that our as our volume goes up, our unit costs go down, then we may need to centralize production. We may need to centralize production. So it really depends on many things to determine how you structure your organization with respect to centralization. Many companies have attempted to reduce their expenses by eliminating jobs, and that's kind of an easy one. We have to reduce costs, so let's cut jobs. My suggestion to you and for you is when you're building your organization that you only add people when they're absolutely necessary. Because if a managerial job can be eliminated and their responsibilities delegated to other employees, then why did you have that manager there to begin with? You know my thinking? Reducing the number of managers in an organization can also have an impact on the span of control. Here's an example here where before downsizing the span of control was 1, and then after downsizing it looks here like the span of control is 2. I mean, this looks like a better structure to begin with, and you wonder why it was structured the way it was to begin with. Talk about types of organizational structures, a couple of types here. Now, the first one is a line organization. And a line organization is an organization that is structured so that only line positions. And a line position is one that's in the chain of command. In the chain of command. A line and staff organization is one that is a line organization primarily, but it's supplemented by people outside of the chain of command, so-called staff positions. And the staff positions and people support the line managers in making decisions, but they don't directly have line authority or responsibilities. For example, here's an example of a line organization. You have the president, and you have the CFO, and the CMO, and the COO responsible, reporting directly. Now, very simple, very clear lines of authority in this line organization. Now, in this line staff organization, the CFO and the VP Marketing and VP Operations are still reporting directly as before, but now you have the Director of Communication Systems and a Director of Human Resources. In this case, the Director of Human Resources and the Director of Computer Systems are staff positions that report directly to the President. Now, this means that the Director of HR can't tell the VP of Operations to do something and expect that it gets done. But he or she can tell the President, and the President, based on his advice, can tell the VP of Operations to do something and expect that it is done. So where the staff position lies and who the staff person reports to has an impact directly on their influence and power. In other organizations, of course, human resources is a line position. In other organizations, you have a CIO, and so the computer systems is a line position as well. And that depends on the type of business you're in, size of business, the industry, historical reasons, and that sort of thing. The next organizational structure I want to mention is the matrix organization. The matrix organization is one that is widely used, but there are some challenges with a matrix structure. Basically, a matrix structure is just as the name would imply, that there's a functional organization. The organization is basically set up by research and development, or marketing, or operations and finance, and that sort of thing, just like we've seen before. But there's another organization that is placed over the line in terms of a project, in terms of a product line, in terms of a brand. I'll show you that right here. So we have our functional aligned structure as before, but now we have a new position here, this manager of a computer project, and he has a team that's made up of one production person, one marketing person, and one finance person. Now, this project could be, if it was Procter & Gamble, it could be Jell-O. There could be Jell-O, there could be a Jell-O pudding pop, where they all have their teams producing those particular products, those particular brands. The challenge with this is that, for example, the representative of marketing has two bosses, has the project manager, and also has the VP of marketing. So occasionally there is a conflict between who do you listen to. And generally it's not a good idea to have two bosses like that. But usually the way it's worked out where on a day-to-day basis your project manager is who you report to. And on long-term issues you report to your functional head. And in the this matrix structure, again, is used by many companies, many global companies, and as a result, there is some value to it. More than some value, there's tremendous value to it. So these small challenges have been worked out and continue to be worked out on a regular basis. Entrepreneurship is another way in which we can structure an organization to increase the level of employee input. Entrepreneurship, again, is entrepreneurship within an organizational structure. And so sometimes organizations structure themselves to allow for entrepreneurial activity, where individuals can act as if they were entrepreneurs, but within the structure, within the system, within the resource constraints of another organization. And they can run projects and divisions and that sort of thing. Occasionally as well, they have the opportunity of starting and growing independent business units, or almost independent business units. And they can run those businesses as if they were their own companies. And often they can be compensated with phantom stock and bonuses based on the profitability of the business. So it's very close to entrepreneurship, although there's some differences, of course, that make it substantially different as well. Additionally, there's informal structures in the organization that allow for information to flow not only up and down the chain of command, but also across the organization as well. And one of those is the grapevine. And the grapevine, it's an American term for an informal communication network among the employees in an organization. And in the U.S. Tradition, this happens around the water cooler. And of course, in the Swedish tradition, this happens around the coffee machine, where employees of different levels come together for coffee to talk not about business per se, although there's some business that gets discussed. In fact, there's lots of business that gets discussed there oftentimes, but it's informal. You develop relationships across the organization, which facilitates communication across the organization. Because again, most communication is up and down the lines of authority, And so by having this informal communication network, it actually facilitates getting things done in the organization, because now if I have an issue, I can call someone across the organization who I've met at coffee, and he or she may be able to help me, and we don't have to go through the whole "who are you, why are you calling me" sort of thing, because we have established an organization already. Some disadvantages of this, of course, is that the employees might get incorrect or unfavorable information, but that can happen anytime as well. And those people who aren't really involved in the network may feel left out, but real life is actually pretty much like high school as well. Sometimes you're in the crowd, sometimes you're out of the crowd, and if you're out of the crowd, you just have to deal with it and find other ways in which to become effective. Okay. Departmentalization tasks. Assign tasks and responsibilities to different departments. So this is a way to structure an organization based on departments. We've talked about functionalization. Functionalization is, again, is a let's say a subset of departmentalization, where we are grouping tasks based upon function. See the first one? You can group based on product, group based on geography, based on customer type. Departmentalization by function. Again, we've talked about this before. This is the most common way to do it. VP of Finance, VP of Marketing, VP of Operations, VP of HR, VP of Research and Development, and so on and so on. This is by product. Okay. Very common way as well, but these VP of soft drink operations, they're running a division of soft drink operations, a division of packaged food, or a division of restaurant operations as well. Here's by product and function. It's by product up top, the division, and then within the division by function. VP of Marketing, VP of Operations. And each, of course, the VP of Marketing within soft drink would have a whole marketing division under him or her. And the VP of Operations for packaged food would have a whole organization under him or her as well. And this is just a simplified way in which information flows across the different departments. I think the point of this slide is just to show the interrelationship between the different departments. That there is information flow that has to happen, that needs to happen across different departments. And there's a challenge because the marketing people speak marketing, and the finance department speak finance, and the production department speaks production. And getting everyone to speak the same language is a challenge. It's a really important challenge when there's so much interdependence here. And this is at the crux of some of the major problems that exist in organizations, and mismanagement, and the reason why businesses don't reach their goals and objectives, because they have the information in the organization, they just can't figure out where it is. They can't just figure out what language, quote unquote, is it in. So in part, just going back to this culture item, that if we can develop an organizational culture and an organizational language so that the production people can speak to the finance people, can speak to the marketing people in a common language, we can facilitate this communication and this information flow across departments, and we can act quicker, and we can get better information to act on as well. So, to wrap this up, we've looked at the structures and identified responsibilities for positions and relationships among different types of organization. We looked at line staff, matrix. We talked a little bit about entrepreneurship. We talked about informal networks like the Grapevine. and we talked about ways in which you can departmentalize your organization. Function, we talked about being the absolute most common in large organizations, often by product, and in large organizations by function, product, and location, and in really large organizations, function, product, location, and customers at the same time. So I hope you enjoyed this introduction to organizational structure, and I look forward to you at the next lecture.